Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here with rather exciting moments in this campaign going on right now. We have the invasion here of Sri Lanka, airborne invasion. We have the British massively reinforced down here because all these collapsed units with no organization they've recently put in, but they won't be able to supply them. But they're counterattacking. I don't know how well that counterattack will do. We've been moving a lot of force as well in this direction to get them out of here so they're not a strain on the supply chain, but we'll have to see about that. So that's going on. A few ships here, including some transports I think are going somewhere, trying to get out, and we're doing airborne airstrikes on those, so those are all happening. Let's see, we're going to start naval striking here. So that's all the exciting stuff that's going on right now, but I've been noticing an uptick in things, and I really think it's because recently a bunch of you have been liking the videos. I've been asking at the start of the video, I know, hey, how do you know if you're going to like it? Well, you can always uncheck the box if you make it to the end and you think it sucks. And you know, actually, if you really want to, you could dislike it, because as long as there's a good percentage, only like, because normally, quite honestly, I get about 100% likes. Yeah, once in a while there's one dislike, but my average is like 99% likes over dislikes. But I think so long as it's like a 75 to 25%, and 75% like, so even if you want to, you can dislike the video. It still helps me out. I mean, if they were all dislikes, majority, that would hurt, but not my feelings so much. Well, that too, but what the Google algorithm thinks. So liking the video really has been helping, and also if you share it on some other platform, Twitter, Facebook, Reddit, Paradox forum, just go and make a post of how great this series is, and you can do it. If I do it, I already do post them in the after action reports, but if you guys think that, hey, either there's a really cool episode or just want to talk up the series, it's perfectly legit for you guys to make a post there. Something like that. That would really help the channel out and grow. So I would really appreciate that if you want to share it somewhere. And thank you if you do. Okay, so let's get you going up here. You don't have very good range, but we're going to try to use you guys in the meantime, because I've just sort of been saving you for needed use on carriers, but might as well get them out here to do some anti-submarine type work. Cancel. Let's pick here. There we go. That'll at least cover some of the zones of operation. Now here we're going to try something. We're going to pull the 7th Flieger Division out and put these guys into the attack. That way the 7th Flieger won't become too disrupted, and can become the reserve dealing with any counterattacks that we may face. I prefer not to also pull. Ooh, in the Zanzibar Channel, this sub took out a light cruiser. May have been helped by some airstrikes, including some port strikes. Oh, there's a bunch here. Okay. Well, could have just been helped out by our carrier task force, and they got the final blow in. Oh, there we go. We're going after those transports. Good. Okay, carrier crew training, just what we're operating with. Very good. There we go. We're getting most of the ones done here that I want. We are going to need to improve some of the escorts, but I'm trying to make my Submarines invisible. Acoustic torpedoes. Don't know why propulsion. Now, I need to read up a little bit more on it, but the Americans, generally speaking, used air propulsion for their compressed air propulsion for their torpedoes. So that's why when you in the movies you see the torpedo coming in, there's like a trail of bubbles behind it, because normally it's so much below the water you don't see the wake of the torpedo going through the water. You can, if it's obviously like a surface torpedo or just even something within a foot or two, that very well may make a wake up onto the surface because it's moving fast and pushing a lot of water out of the way. But they so you could see torpedoes coming, and then if you see them in time, you can make maneuvers to get out of their way, because unless you're at a dead stop, you don't shoot a torpedo at the ship. You shoot a torpedo because they are much faster than the ship, but they're not like bullets. And even bullets, obviously, you lead aircraft, but you shoot where you think the ship is going to be in the time it takes the torpedo to get there. So often, if you just do a hard right, hard left, whatever, port or starboard in the ship terms, you can normally get out of the path of a torpedo or even a group of torpedoes launched at you. The Japanese used oxygen engines, and I think, and again, like I say, I haven't read up on, I think they're just burning the oxygen within the engine or something, as opposed to releasing compressed air. So it had none of that visible bubble line behind it, which you still see in some of the movies at the time. Now, I don't know what the Germans were using. So propulsion, they did have unobservable improved propulsion, but I don't know that I want to increase my visibility. So I don't know that we're going to do that, because I'm trying to have the most invisible submarines reasonably possible within the technology. So things that improve things that don't deal with that, I definitely want to do, but I'm going to stay away from a few others. So you just here reduce range by 40 kilometers. Now we've already, and I presume it's 10 kilometers per. We've already reduced some. Now, like in my supply, is the 40 kilometers or the 30, whatever it is, or whatever, is that what is keeping some of the supply missions for the heavy transports not operating? So that's why I'm just really reluctant to hit things like that reduce. And these I don't know are going to help, because they mostly just unlock these, which we've gotten the 80 plus, which is good, but well, okay, I'm just thinking probably some of these would be good down here. Yeah, sure, plunk doctrine, let's do that. No, come on. Here we go. Oh, nav ground crew training as well. Let's, okay, keep shifting some of this around here. TAC pilot training, good. Ooh, 258. We gotta shift a lot over there for now. And these guys are also helping out our flying boats, going out after the liners. Took out another one. Saudi Arabia, we give them money in exchange for fuel. No, thank you. We're trying to prove our money thing. Carrier group doctrine rule, very good. Oh, we'll let that continue. We're getting a bunch more carriers. Okay, what? Because I'm looking at this and we're going down, and we shouldn't be going down. Because according to this, we have a positive of 10, but for some reason, I'm not trusting this anymore. And I know I've done a few fairly big trades. Checking out here, crude oil for 10. Yeah, let's stop that. I'm looking for a big one or two, not just a... Yeah, that one. 'Cause that's 19. Okay. Wish this was working right. There's something wrong here. I don't know what it is. Yes, if you do the math, it looks like it should be a positive, but we're not growing, we're diminishing. Okay, we've won the Battle of Colombo, great. And I think we will be able to hold out and get there before they can reinforce. Because even though there is decent amount of infrastructure, these are sort of rugged islands. Good, we've won this battle here. Or we did. They're just attacking again. Okay, well. Okay, guys, get the hell out of here. Go to Berlin. Get repaired. Get supplies. Stop draining my supplies out of East Africa. Not that you're not useful, you are, but you're just eating the supplies and we don't have a big enough air base. Here's Berlin. You supply to Tanga. Oh, they've been forced to retreat, have they? Okay, not good. Though that special purpose armor will help out. And they're doing okay. We give them money. No, we're cutting back on that. No, decline. We've got plenty of rare materials. Oil's a problem. Okay, small ship crew berthing. So this is something that we modern people may not sort of realize, how, whether, you know, small ships, which include, of course, destroyers. And I don't know how this goes on all Japanese ships, but like I said, for my Japanese series, I just recently, just last week, got finished reading Japanese Destroyer Captain. And one of the things that I found interesting on, especially dealing, and I don't think it changed during the war, because he didn't note that it did, but there were no I think I could say this. There were no sort of crew quarters on a destroyer for Japan. Now that may be something of a misstatement. I think maybe a little more clearly would be stated there were no crew bunks on a destroyer in the Japanese Navy before the war, or, you know, some of the pre-war, I'm not talking 1936 or something, or 1938 or whatever, during the time period when he referenced it, and he didn't note any changes in that. And he says, because the crew just, wherever they could, they swung hammocks, just put hammocks up in the various spaces. So I'm sure they had some sort of messing area. I'm sure there was some sort of volume of ship space for the crew, some sort. But there wasn't, like you can look at inside of destroyers, there, for the U.S., there was, specific bunks. Now, it depends on the crew sizes of some ships, particularly like submarines. There wasn't a bunk for every person. So what they did what they called hot bunking is 2 guys shared the same bunk, but one guy has the night duty, say, and the other guy has day duty. So, and whether they always sleep in the same bunk or they, swap around a little bit, I don't know. But when you sort of hot bunk that way, because a ship functions to some degree even in port, though I'm sure if you're in port long enough and you're not maintaining full, because if you're in port in, say, Mombasa now, you have crew ready to operate 24 hours a day, because there could be attack, air attacks, ship attacks, because my ships could theoretically come off the port. We can't quite do this, and start shelling into with the turpits into the port. And so you want to have people in the engine room ready to do something. Now, if you're back home in the U.S. or back home in Japan, and there's, outside of the Doolittle raid, it's early on, there's no real potential for attack, fine. And if you sort of have a heavy crew, you can put part of it ashore, or some of them can sleep on deck or whatever, and sling hammocks there if the weather's good enough, or whatnot, in the U.S. or wherever. But once you're out at sea, that vessel has to be operating, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, the nighttime routine normally slows down because most of the crew is going to be sleeping then. And you don't, really, in most vessels, you don't, now submarines are different, but in most vessels you don't have, 2 crewmen for every bunk. It's just doubling up on some of them. Well, the Japanese, so the U.S. has, specific bunk space that takes up space that some of the bunks can fold out of the way to, while most of the people are awake, can sort of occupy some of the space. But others not really effectively, where the Japanese didn't do that. And so they would, now of course they still had officers' quarters, but they were very small on destroyers is what I'm talking about. They talk about on some of the battleships, some of the lavish quarters for the officers, particularly flag rank admirals and whatever in the Japanese Navy were very elaborate for the officers. Don't know about the crew, the standard crew. But so they just really didn't have the crew comforts. And you may go, oh, well, the Japanese weren't maybe used to that lavish sort of American sleeping space. And in a way, you're very right. Japan, especially back then, it's still to this day somewhat, is that they don't have necessarily really dedicated bedrooms. Now, they do more so nowadays, but like I say back then, and I say some, and it's not always the case, is that they use the sort of the futons to sort of pack away the bed, and it can be fairly comfortable, but it gets packed away into a closet during the day and brought out at night. And so they're not used to this culturally concept of, now again I'm talking back in the 30s, this cultural concept of everybody having specified bed space that's 24 hours a day bed space. So I get that. There's some element to that, but still, you get fatigue. You get, I know the Western nations colonized the world sailing on ships with hammocks, and so you can do that, but still crew fatigue and whatever else. So crew berthing is a very real element, and morale, it helps morale, but it also helps sustain operations over a long time. So it is a real factor. And on small ships, well, how do I put this? On big ships, they need to have a certain volume of space so that you can displace enough water to hold the ship up that has lots of armor and big heavy guns on it and carrying big heavy ammunition. So you have a fairly large volume of space. This is why I'm not sure on a battleship so much situation. So you need to have, but you need to have a volume of space, because you can't just take that volume of space and fill it full of fuel, water, ammunition, which is heavier than water, because you throw a shell over the ship, it sinks. Armor, which obviously is heavier than water. The guns are heavier than water. So you have so much of this heavier than water stuff on that ship, and it's such a large volume of space, you have to be able to handle that. Now with a frigate, well, not a frigate, but like a destroyer, could be a frigate too, of course, but a destroyer, you don't have any realistic armor. The hull's thick enough to stop machine gun bullets and whatnot, but you really don't design it so it has armor. So you do need a volume of space, because obviously most of the materials you're putting on board ship is heavier than water, but still it's not volumed out so much. So you have a much narrower hull design to go faster and all this stuff, so you can build and optimize the ship, and then not have a lot of extra space for the people needing to operate the ship. They have enough space to work the gun or work the engine or work whatever, but you don't necessarily have space for the laundry, for the showers. I don't think, because the way they talk, I don't think they had any bathing facilities on these destroyers either, of any sort. The Americans, they had showers on board the ship. I don't think the Japanese had any bathing. They used up some fresh water cleaning themselves, wiping themselves down, but they really didn't, because they had talked about going. Now, of course, the Japanese, I wasn't quite sure in reading this. The Japanese, of course, are very much of a bathing culture, and talking about, once going ashore and taking proper baths. That's sort of a ritualistic thing for all classes, sort of like it was in ancient Rome. For all classes within Japan, so that was, a morale thing in and of itself. But I don't really think they had showers. I don't think they had any sort of significant bathing facilities on a Japanese destroyer. I'd love to have somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but so they didn't have, or much, and they also talk about how bad the food was on the destroyers, and I'm sure some of that's the level of the cook, but I'm also sure some of that is the level of food storage and food preparation, because as we can see here, air conditioning. Well, I know the Americans, they had air conditioning. They had on their submarines at this time, we need to get long-range submarines up, so that tells me what I'm going to do, because I'm sort of ignoring that. We want to get air conditioning, though. That reduces range. Ooh, we don't have a choice on that one. Okay, but we'll see about whether we do that. And they also had freezers and refrigerator type stuff, so they could have ice cream on board American submarines while it lasted. Not while it was cold enough. They could keep it cold, but didn't have that huge volume of space on it for long range. But they were able to much better handle food and other crew-oriented priorities than a lot of the other nations did. And so that does make a difference. Soviet Union, no. If we're going to buy rare materials, we're buying them somewhere else. Okay, well, now that we have... Let's do convoy raiding passive. Now that we sort of dealt with those immediate first operations. Convoy raiding back again, passive. We want to do that to better choke off any supplies coming in here. And have we got Colombo yet? No, but it looks like we're going to get there. Well, maybe not so fast. Huh. You know what I think we're going to do? Well, no, well, we might do that, but let's first, no, we're going to detach you. You don't need to be attached there. We're not going to send you at the school in. No, not tomorrow. Our air landing troops. Okay, do we have... How's your organization? Where are you? You're here. Okay, you're perfectly fine. Okay, let's get the big one. There we go. No. Oh, cancel. Oh well, we've already sent them over. Never mind. That wasn't the best move. Oh, we have Remke's Fallschirmjäger Division. Ooh, okay. Yeah, I was sort of planning on using that, wasn't I? Okay, get rid of the Panzerjäger. You can see these are really much more optimized for being... How long until we get there? 2nd of August. Okay, that's what we'll do. Get on board these vessels. No. You'll take much longer getting there. Yes, we have to click through these now. Sorry about that. I don't want to mess up the current order of things. Oh, we only have that division too. Well, we want to use Ramke's. Get on board. Fly down here. And we're also going to go to excuse me. Let's send directly no, you guys could go up. And you guys can go up. These guys can go direct. We may switch aircraft here in a moment once they get down here because they're coming direct. We'll see if we can get there quicker and do a paradrop now that they're defeated straight on top of the Colombo garrison. Guess I could have used these guys for their airdrop too. Oh, they're transporting these guys for the air operations. Okay. Get out. Okay, we're still defending there well enough. They're defending there. Okay, yeah, they're doing okay. We keep getting attacked. We've got at least one battleship, a heavy cruiser, something else. All locked up in that port there. And when we take it, they're going to have to come out. Here we go. And we just had a crash. Sorry about that, we had a crash. I guess that ends the episode. You're watching a dark screen right now, I presume. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks for liking the videos. Please post questions, comments, suggestions, ideas. Love hearing from you. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.